The title is Most Do Not Understand the Difference Between Working on the Self and Waking Up. Cool. Okay. Guten Tag. Guten Nachmittag, Tom. So there's two different things that I speak about here. I speak about the embodiment of non-duality, and I speak about settling down the personal self. But I wouldn't say I'm an expert in either of those. Both of those are something that's in development and very much from my own experience. Even though I learnt with lots of other teachers and did lots of different therapies, it's very much from my own experience. It's not like I'm a trained expert that's done lots of scientific research into finding out what is the best way to settle down every different personality and different personality disorders and mental health issues. And again, with the embodiment, I've read lots, I've learned lots, but again, it's from my own experience. I would say I'm an expert in non-duality. Although everyone could say, who is an expert? Like, to me, that is what I teach. And when I say non-duality, maybe people become confused by that. I mean the absolute, because in a way, everything is non-duality. The integration of the self, the working out the personal karma. But I mean the absolute, the recognition of who you are beyond the person. That's what I mean by that. And that, it's like unquestionable here, even though other people might question me. I mean, it's not really an ego thing, it's just so clear. So it's not like an ego where I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm great at it, or like I attach to it. It's just so clear, non-duality or the absolute, like crystal clear. You could say that's what's speaking these words now. And it's not intellectual or conceptual, it's an expression of what is seen or the way it is. But when speaking about this subject, you know, people are at different places in their apparent journey, and a lot of the time they're coming with a lot of emotional difficulties or suffering and need help with that. And for years I spoke, or for a few years I spoke about the chakras, which is something that I use and deeply believe in and feel is very accurate for myself and maybe for others as well, but I'm not positive about that. There's other things that I use as well. But I come to realize that, you know, speaking about it generally, I'm sure it's helpful, but most of the time people need individual one-on-one work to really look at their stuff. Like, I've had so much individual one-to-one. We worked it out once. Like, most people go to a therapist and they do like an hour a week. But when I was with Roger, it's like I can't remember how many hours we decided it was with Roger, and with other teachers as well. Like I really went for it and worked one-on-one on myself, my dynamics, my issues. And I really feel like people need that one-on-one attention because everybody's personality structure is so unique to them, and one shoe doesn't fit all, and the personality structure and the seeking dynamics and the karma is very sneaky. Presents itself in all types of illusory ways, and you can't see it because that's who you feel you are, so you can only see what suits you. But if there's like a feeling that you have all the time, you might not even know it's there, and that most probably is like a deep schema that's hidden in your body-mind mechanism or in the unconscious. And so we can talk generally about the person, but I don't feel so much lately to really go into it on the internet because it's also a lot for somebody to take, and I'm not sure even if they can really hear it, you know, when it's being exposed online. And to really listen to someone, you know, that really takes a lot of trust. To really hear what someone says. I know that I had people saying things to me and I couldn't hear it. It's like boop 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 boop, but we're taking it to mean something else. And then years later I'm like, oh, that's what they mean. Also, another dynamic I come across is that people expect to be in this like 5-10 years and like, should be all done now. I've worked on it for that many years, boom. But if you go back to Indian traditions, it takes years or lifetimes of settling the personality down. There's not this expectation, but in the West we have this like this mentality. It's the same with like buying products, that we buy all these cheap products from abroad, from Asia predominantly. And we expect everything. It's like this expectation. Why did it not happen for me yet? It should be faster. I should see through this, and feeling, I suppose, shame about exposing stuff. So, but then there's the other side, which is one shoe fits all in a way. I mean, you can use different words in the pointing, but with the absolute, it's not different for anybody. Like so, and I'll just go into the absolute and what the absolute is. The absolute non-duality, your absolute reality, is who you are is beyond any form, feeling, sensation, thought, idea, memory, image, anything that can be perceived, isn't it? But yet it is the perceiver of all. That's so beautiful. So who you are is that which is experiencing now, but that which is experiencing isn't a form, isn't subject object. So if it's not subject object, you can't find it, because anything you find will be a subject in which an object or which another subject has found that subject, or an object which a subject has found. That was overly complex. So anything you find to be the watcher is something that has been found by another thing. So that can't be it. But yet it's experiencing now. And it's experiencing from no place as nothing, and yet it's all things. And this is absolute love. It's not an experience, but yet it's experiencing. You can't get better than that. So you're sitting listening to me, and you think it's a body-mind listening. The body-mind is like an instrument, like the phone. So if we look through the phone, say, as a camera, so Just let me see myself so I can see what I'm doing. You can see me. So if we look through the phone, so the phone is a camera, like we are looking through it. So the camera is not perceiving. The camera is an instrument in which we're recording something and looking through. And that's the same as the body. The body is like a camera, a microphone, like sense perception, like feeling. So it's like a sensory perception object that's being looked through. But it's not even really looking through it, because consciousness is everywhere. It's just seemingly having a human experience. That which is looking through is nothing, not a thing, not a thing, not a thing, boo, boo, boo. But all things, nothing, but all things. It's not even a consciousness looking from a place at things. It is the actual things. So it is the table, it is the computer, it is the sound of my voice. It's not like it's a consciousness watching through the body, even though we speak like that. It is in all things. It is all things. Das ist super cool. Super cool. And this becomes forgotten at a young age, at like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. At some point there is an identification with a name, a story of you, a body, and then there is the belief that you are this single unit in a separate world. And it's forgotten that actually what you are is the experiencer of all things, is oneness, not two-ness, is love. You could call it love. And then what happens is there is a feeling of loss that happens in the body, a feeling of anxiety that you are no longer safe. That also arises in the human world. It's a bodily thing, you know. If you're a kid with like disastrous parents, there's going to be a human bodily thing that's not identified that feels unsafe. But this is a deeper feeling. This is a feeling of losing yourself. It's a feeling of separation. It's loss of that connection to something higher, something bigger, something unlimited. And when the belief in the body is that I am this single unit and I am in relationship to the world and I am separate and I am alone, and then that creates seeking. That gets mixed with the human needs. So on a human level, the child needs safety, it needs comfort, it needs all these things to be a balanced child. And then that gets amplified by losing connection with your true self. So if you have really unsafe parents, then there can become really strong seeking to try and find safety, or try to find love, or try to find affection. And if you have more safe parents, you won't have such strong seeking to find that, but there'll still be a sense of loss. There's something not quite right with this moment. And so then there's always this seed in the human of there's something not quite right, there's something else that I need to get in order to relax. There's something else. And then there is this living in a timeline. It doesn't feel like a timeline, but it's living in this continuous story of me, and my life. But that isn't a conscious thing. That is hidden to the person. And through time, I feel like the person becomes more and more dead. It loses its sense of wonder. It can remember that wonder still from childhood, of like looking at the tree and just having a sense of awe and wonder at not really knowing what anything is. It's just like, wow, 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 wow. And this sense of play and freedom. And there is a losing of that, and life becomes more and more dead. If you've had really like traumatic and difficult childhood, this will all be exacerbated, like tenfold. So if you've had like abuse or neglect, then that will become exacerbated. So your seeking will become extra in those areas. If you've had a more balanced childhood, then the seeking won't be so elevated. So you'll have a more balanced personality structure. So you'll be experiencing less pleasure, not less pleasure, but less pain, maybe more pleasure. But your pleasure and pain will be more balanced. Whereas somebody that's had really chaotic childhood and has an unstable personality, they may be experiencing a lot more pain. And then there is a lot more seeking when you experience a lot more pain. So the person with a more steady ego won't have such strong seeking because there won't be so much pain, but they will still have seeking because they'll still feel like they've lost something. What happens with non-duality, I feel, is a lot of people with trauma and unstable personality structures come to non-duality because they really can sense this. Not all the time. There are stable egos. I certainly had a very unstable ego. I was traumatized by the time I left home. I'm laughing because like I'm trying to like open it up. It's not such a big deal. Like everyone's like, oh God, I can't have a difficult personality. Gotta be sane. I had a very unbalanced, I would say, personality structure. This, I think, was a bit of a blessing because it led me to changing myself earlier on. And I think it's easier to change yourself earlier on in life before the habits get too set in. And so I managed to balance myself out to an extent, but I still work on myself. I still feel like that is something that has to happen. And if you have a more balanced ego, then I think that what happens is life just becomes more and more dead, and you maybe just get more and more stressed because in Western culture, it's very stressful to do everything. The kids, the family, the cleaning, looking after the house, the maintenance of the house, the bills, friendships, relationships, family. I mean, how do we fit it all into the day? Passions, relaxation, meditation, non-duality. And this seeking energy, like the more that gets invested, the more that the mind goes in time, because the mind is looking for the answers in what it thinks and what it believes. So it's looking for answers there. And then there's a whole world of the unconscious. Even if you had like a stable upbringing, you've got a whole world of the unconscious thoughts that you have in your body that are acting out. So you might believe you're better than other people, but that might not be conscious, but then there's actions towards that. Or you might feel like you can't survive alone, so that's acting out. Or that nobody will like you if you behave like this, so that acts out unconsciously. And unconscious thoughts aren't necessarily seeking, they're kind of what we learn. Like I've trained my dog in particular ways. She doesn't really have thought processes like us, but she has ways of being that she's learned from interacting with me and being a street dog in Thailand. Behaviors, habits, conditions. And we also have past life, which if you don't believe in past lives, you could look at it as like genetic predisposition, you know, like your family line. So when you're waking up, you can address your seeking, but you can also address stuff that might not be seeking. It's just schemas and ideas and belief systems that are in your body that are maybe limiting, and then turn into seeking. But that person that you think you're working on isn't the one that's going to wake up, because who wakes up? That's the beauty of this. Who wakes up? That which is waking up never was a person. It's not even that it wakes up again, it's just that it was veiled, it was seemingly hidden. I suppose you could say it wakes up again. It was veiled, seemingly hidden, and then it comes forward and is presented again. But it's still there in every experience, but it doesn't belong to something in time. And the person is something in time. You cannot be something without time, without imagination and thought. The body can do its responses, but it requires this thought and an energy, I suppose, in the body, but it's a time-bound thing. Who would you be right here? You're not rich, you're not successful. That's all thoughts, that's all in time. You're not better than or worse than. You've not got more or less, that's all in time. Who you are always, in every moment, what never leaves is this expansive freedom that's experiencing itself. This is love. That which never dies, that which was never born, is here experiencing. It cannot be found, it's not a thing, and it's all things. It's not conscious of, it simply is conscious of itself. But I suppose that still says of, but that's the limitation of the English language. English language. Yes. 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 You cannot tame it. You are an illusion that is appearing and disappearing. It's like a product of the body-mind. It's like a film playing inside the body-mind, but rather than it just being thoughts, it's like feelings and sensations arising in the body. And most people believe it so much. Like, so maybe you're sitting here and you're either liking me or disliking me or judging me or not judging me. And most people think that that is truth, that has some truth to it. It's truth to you. It's like what your truth is. It's like what's appearing for you in this moment. I'm not saying that you're crazy or anything like that. It's like what's appearing, what you feel in this moment. But it's not a truth. It's not the way things are. Life is infinitely more complex than your ability to think. It's projection. Everything is projection. But we need a certain amount of projection in order to survive, in order to navigate and discern what's good and what's bad. But it's not truth. Truth is what's experiencing now, which has no judgment, which has no color, which has no idea, doesn't want anything or need anything. It's not anxious or not anxious. It's just here. It's like a massive puffer fish. Like the person is like the small puffer fish, and then the marshmallow man. Like yourself is huge. And this is energetical. It's not conceptual. It's an energetical shift from feeling limited to inside this body, so your essence feeling limited to inside this body, to this expansiveness. And you can see from saying that, that doesn't mean, I think the body changes with awakening for sure, but it doesn't mean that the body has to be enlightened or perfect in any way. That's such a big trip up for people, like constantly trying to improve themselves. Me, 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 me. And the reason that the person does that is because if it's about you, then you can control it and you can do something about it. If we're talking about something beyond you, then it's triggers that feeling of being out of control or helpless or childlike in a negative way. And through this like expansion, you begin to see that the person is being acted. There isn't really a person in there acting. The person comes with the appearance of free will, it's meant to, but it's actually being acted. It's like a flow, a dance. So right now, this is being spoken. It's not really Lisa speaking. It's being spoken from nowhere, from no place, from this infiniteness that's not got the opposite of finite. Just this, it's being spoken. Everything's appearing from that no place now. everything, 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 everything. Wow. So you might feel like you're looking, but there is no you looking. There is no Lisa looking. There is simply looking happening. And it's not really subject-object. There's not a looking here and an object there. There is simply one looking, which is all things and not separate from things. It is the camera, it is the computer, it is the light. It is everything. Yes. And this is gone. I know it's being recorded, so you have a sense that it's not gone, but it is gone. It's gone, gone, gone. Don't you notice that about the whole of entire life? Our recording devices confuse us because we think, oh, it's actually happened and it was something that's graspable, but it's not. That recording device is something that's appearing now. It just comes through the idea of logic, but everything's gone. Constant letting go. We're in a constant state of letting go, or our nature is in a constant state of letting go, creating and letting go. It's like an absolute celebration of nothing. It's not somebody letting go, because who would be that someone? But everything is going automatically. It's not like you have to sit there and let go. It's just when you tune in, or when there is that expansion back into what you are, everything is gone, 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 gone. As if it never happened. As if it never happened. What beauty, what love. Yes, yes. So these words are like a dandelion thistle. There's the ball of the dandelion thistle, and then it disappears into nothing. Gone, 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 gone. This moment's gone. The person's always trying to hold on. Give me more, hold on and take mine, mine, mine. There's nothing to hold on to. Okay, so get to questions. So I take